Hi, my name is Tyler Fornes, and I am the co-host of The Good, the Bad, and the Hunky here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Every week, my co-host Fred Moreland and I discuss all the happenings of All Elite Wrestling and everything going on in the universe of Tony Khan. We talk about Dynamite, we talk about Rampage, and we will talk about Collision when the time comes as well, along with all the appearances outside of AEW from all the best talents in All Elite Wrestling. This is one of the more cohesive wrestling companies in the entire world, and we discuss every intricacy about it, including the unique booking of Tony Khan that is both a huge positive and a major detriment. Check us out every single Thursday here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
Music. It's not just part of our daily lives, it's part of our wrestling fandom as well, and it has been for decades. That's where this show comes in. Music of the Mat, the podcast devoted exclusively to the music of pro wrestling, hosted by Andrew Rich. Hey, that's me. Each episode delivers a different topic with a variety of great guests, fun conversations, musical analysis, and of course, a heartfelt pun or two. New episodes drop every other Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice. Check out Music of the Mat only on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
To the highway in a brand new day. Gotta let it go. So fast to finger down. Dance tonight together. Here everyone is singing. You can't know what your part. Copy from what the show.
Welcome back to Open the Voice Gate for October 18th, 2023. We are members of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. You can find us on the Voices of Wrestling podcast feed or on the Open the Voice Gate podcast feed on all podcast platforms and applications. You can follow us on Twitter at Open Voice Gate. If you'd like to donate to the show, click the link in the show notes. It'll take you to our redcircle.com landing site. You click the red box that says sponsor this podcast, and you can set up a one-time or recurring donation. No obligation whatsoever, but we would like to thank all of our previous donors. I'm one of your hosts. It's your old pal, Mike Spears, joined alongside, as always, your other host, Case Lowe. In Case, it is Wednesday. It worked out so far that somehow we have managed to line this up that we're constantly recording with Rangers baseball.
I feel very bad about it. We obviously record Tuesday nights more often than not. I had to do some Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame audio last night instead, which made me feel like a real jerk because there was not a Texas Rangers game last night. And while you were doing your intro there, I noticed your voice jump a few octaves. Was that because Jose Altuve hit a ball to the warning track just a second ago?
Yes, and we are going to not be completely baseball fight. Actually, Case, this is good luck. The Texas Rangers have not lost a game during this playoffs as we've recorded. So we're going to make this through. But as we were recording, Case was very apologetic about this. That did not bother me whatsoever. And I was like, I expect the Rangers to lose this game. So that warning track fly on the first pitch, I was like, I was right.
Look, it scared me as somebody who's been wearing a Texas Rangers hat all week. And by the way, wearing a Texas Rangers hat and getting loads and loads of compliments from people, some cheering for the Rangers, some simply rooting against the Astros. But that has become the talk of the town. People are into the Rangers.
For the only time in Texas Rangers history, they are kind of America's team. And it is kind of wild considering all the things about Texas Rangers baseball for the last 50 years that this happens. But Case, I respect the fact that your hat, you've shown it off to me. A very important hat in at least my personal history. The first year that I understood what baseball was, that hat was from that year. The last year in Old Turnpike Arlington Stadium. So you picked a good one.
I've got an old school Texas Rangers hat that has a side patch with the memoriam of the old Arlington Stadium, like Mike said. Like I said, big hit, and we're gonna root for the Astros here. Europeans, when you're listening, all you need to know is go. I think I said we're gonna root for the Astros. I meant root for the Rangers. And Europeans listening, all you need to know is go Rangers.
Yeah, the way we're going to equate this to it is that basically, because like the Cricket World Cup is happening or has happened, like the Rangers are kind of like West Indies in a way.
I cannot relate to this analogy. I got nothing there.
I'm probably dead off, and that is because the one cricket team I actually kind of followed was the West Indies team because I worked with a bunch of people from the Caribbean. So. But I was trying to make it work. Case. Should we just get into the Dragongate stuff?
Well, that's funny you say that because it just reminded me that when I went to the Baseball Hall of Fame with my dad, he got really upset that the cricket section was bigger than the Caribbean baseball section. This was like a thing that stuck with him for a very long time, and maybe it's changed since because we went to the Hall of Fame about a decade ago now. But I just remember him being very, very annoyed by that.
And it's wild because like baseball in the Caribbean is like huge.
Yeah, the
Winter League.
He's talked openly for years. He's like, one summer, I'm just going to go down there. I'm going to fly from Indiana to the Dominican. I'm going to take some kids back with me, and we're just going to dominate Indiana Travel League baseball, like 13U baseball. It's like this is his dream. It's just to one day show up with a bunch of
international human trafficking.
Yes, he's like, I just want to show up one summer and just kick everybody's ass, and it's going to be fun for me and nobody else, and it's going to be entirely worth it.
I mean, like, if he wants to, other than, of course, the obvious, like, then you could get him in on, like, a scouting deal, get him tied up into, like, Perfect Game, I mean, you can make some serious money doing this. I mean, there's a reason why, like, that's, like, such a scandal happening in baseball with that. But
look, if my career goes south, if I can find a way to make money either ethically or otherwise involved in youth baseball, I would jump at the opportunity to. I can't think of another better way to make a living.
And I feel like that is like an old school con too. Like,
yeah.
I mean, Bad News Bears, all of that. It just it lines up for you,
I think this is like his weird way of getting revenge because every year he watches the Little League World Series and he questions the legitimacy of those teams because Little League is an organization and the kids that play in the Little League World Series are supposed to be all-star teams made up of regions after playing a season of Little League baseball. And he's very concerned about the integrity of the Little League World Series. But on the other hand, he's like, well, I want to fly down to the Dominican and just, see what's out there. Just see if I can pick up a 14-year-old that throws 95 miles an hour.
I like that your dad is the one person who probably still really is mad about Danny Almonte.
Yeah, absolutely. The few, like, he's, for a man of his age, Midwestern, older white guy, very advanced in a lot of his thinking. The two things that really get him are the integrity of the Little League World Series and sports gambling. He will never be for it. He treats it like it is the most evil hobby / profession there's ever been. He gets annoyed when he sees ads for gambling on TV. I don't know what it is. That just, in his mind, that is the most dangerous thing you can do is bet on a sports game.
Is there some like low like family history that like somehow you're related to like Arnold Rothstein or Shoeless Joe Jackson? Like, is this like the thing?
God, I hope so. Mike, I got news for you. If I'm related to Shoeless Joe Jackson, I'm cashing in and I'm not doing this podcast anymore. I'm going to find a way to milk that as much as I can.
Well, you should have told me this like 8 months ago when I still lived in Greenville, South Carolina, the hometown of Shoeless Joe Jackson. We could have gotten a good con going. Like, there's a whole Shoeless Joe museum. Like, they do an annual Ty Cobb versus Shoeless Joe historical baseball game.
Yo,
like,
it's funny. It's funny you bring up Ty Cobb because this morning, like, I wake up at for my job at 3:30 in the morning. At 3:45 this morning, I was reading about the Ty Cobb scandal and the biographer who forged all of that information about Ty Cobb and basically lied and said he was this vile human being, which is a label that stuck to Cobb for 50 years now, even if it's not a lot of it's not even remotely true.
Yeah, so for our international fans, what Case is referring to is Ty Cobb, who's considered probably one of the 10 best all-time like batting offensive baseball players. There was a whole thing about him, like historically, like it was like laundered through like the press that did not like him, essentially, right? Like,
Yeah, sorta.
so, but that basically, in no such terms, like I know some of the things like there is enough validity to that they're just not certain about, but there was like things about like talking about like Ty Cobb jumping the barricade and attacking a fan with disabilities in the 1920s, and that they're really, is that the one that there is some validity to, or is that the one that's completely made up? Because I know that's the things that one of them was they can't count it out. The other one, they're like, no, yeah, it's completely fake.
That one I don't know. There was a lot of pushback on the idea that he was sharpening his spikes to, spike other players when he was sliding into second base. But there was this guy, his name was Al Stump, and he helped Cobb write his autobiography during the last few years of Cobb's life. And, it turned out that Ty Cobb was kind of just this normal old guy who, was supportive of baseball integrating and, wasn't this crabby old man. And so the autobiography ended up being kind of a boring book. And then Cobb passed away, and a few years later, Al Stump wrote the biography and came up with all of these things that Ty Cobb did and, claimed he did. And he was just this monster, this evil man who could not be tamed by anybody. And then he stole a bunch of memorabilia from the Cobb family. Al Stump is a good Google for anybody that wants to get lost in that wormhole.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, and I know it's the case internationally with football and other sports, that baseball is the sport that has, like, the weird, bizarre tapestry for, like, most of the country that, like, only in the South, I would say, like, has kind of a similar tapestry to college football, but, like, a lot of, like, just deep, dark lore, in a way, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
But sadly, as we are going, as the baseball's happening in the background here, we do have Dragongate to talk about today. They did have their doubleheader last weekend at Kobe Art Center. No show at the friendly confines of Sambo Hall. And a lot of stuff coming out of the shows. The 14th and the 15th, it was the only network shows this last week. A little bit of a slower week for Dragongate. But the big thing coming out of the show of a lot of big events, the lasting image of the show, 2 weeks out of Gate of Destiny main event, Madoka Kikuta defending the Open the Dreamgate Championship against Big Boss Shimizu. And Kikuta pens Shimizu clean as a sheet after the rolling lariat in a Natural Vibes versus D-Courage 6-man tag team match. And it's something where with the storyline case, I was kind of seeing like we got to the finish line of at least setting up the match. What were they going to do from this? And Kikuta getting the win back and kind of getting momentum after really the whole entire story of this feud being one-sided about Big Boss Shimizu. What were your thoughts coming out of Kobe?
It excited me. I thought it was a really good step in the direction towards that match coming up at the beginning of November. The strange thing about this show, and these shows rather, because there were two in Kobe, is I went notebook on both of the main events. I went notebook on the aforementioned Daya, Kikuta, and Yoshioka versus Shimizu, Casey, and Strong Machine J match from the 10-15-23 show. And I also went notebook on KZ versus Ishin from the night before for the Bravegate belt. There were two great matches, and yet I still felt wildly unfulfilled this weekend. These were kind of two shows that felt like they were at 75%, at least in the undercard. But in terms of this match and in terms of Kikuta versus Shimizu, they worked 100%. They worked full speed. They hit each other really, really hard. I'm still a little confused on the dynamics, and I'd like to know your thoughts there. We're now 2 weeks out, like you said, from Gate of Destiny. Do you think this is going to be a deal where Kikuta's working on top and he's working as the heel and Shimizu's going to be a hometown babyface? Or do you think Shimizu's going to use his size, assert his size, and they'll have Kikuta work from underneath?
I think that's kind of been the interesting thing about the Shimizu versus Reiwa New Leaders feud, was the idea that Shimizu had to deal with people more powerful, bigger than him throughout it, and like Benkei, Shun Skywalker, and it's something where like we got to kind of see, at least with the Benkei match and even the Kikuta match during King of Gate, the idea of more heavyweight wrestling happen. And I think that they've already kind of pursued that. And especially if you've held off this long for this match, I mean, they've essentially built this match since Kikuta won the Dreamgate at Dead or Alive. So we're talking about it'll be almost a 6-month feud by the time that this match actually happens. I think you have to go hometown babyface finally getting his match after kind of proving Kikuta wrong on the lead up and Kikuta kind of being top dog. I don't know if you could rerun the kind of just like face here. I think you need to really tap into the hometown that will be heavily for Shimizu.
It's my continued reservation about this match, and it's, you know, the one thing that I will continue to be on the side of Kikuta for is that he hasn't had clear face-heel dynamics in any of his Dreamgate defenses, and I think we're going to run into the same issue here. Luckily, I think Shimizu is certainly hotter than Yoshioka was going into Kobe World. I feel like Shimizu is hotter than Minoura was going into Dangerous Gate. Where do you stand on that?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say that. I would push back just because Minoura won King of Gate directly right into the tournament, or going into the title match, you know? Like, yeah. There is that kind of thing that you walk in winning the big tournament, and there's a bit of momentum there. But you do conflict that with the idea that while this all was happening, like Shimizu's kind of story started before the tournament and it's just been like a steady reoccurring thing. And
yeah, well, there was also, and I don't know if you felt this way, but I really struggled post King of Gate, where I thought the tournament was excellent. I thought the right guy won. I thought the match was great. And then as soon as King of Gate was over, it was this weird, it was almost like they were in a spell, and it was like all this momentum that Minoura had that he should carry over into this Dreamgate match, it was gone all of a sudden. And then I thought going into Kikuta versus Minoura was actually kind of a cold match, and it was just this bizarre thing where I think everybody did everything right, and then I still felt unsatisfied, and maybe that was just a me problem.
I think for Minoura, it was getting to a place where he won King of Gate, he had the legitimate challenge. It was not him kind of weaseling his way in, ruining biggest shows of the year with that, at least in booking wise. This was like a legitimate claim, and it was, when we talk about September, like we also have to acknowledge the fact that the big storylines that they had were completely thrown out the window near immediately with Tien Revolution's injury. And then that booking wise, I think was the other thing that they decided really 2 weeks before the big show to start doing the build towards the title matches. And it left us really unfulfilled and wondering. And it's something where I'm still kind of wrapping my head over the last 45 days in this promotion in a lot of ways, because it is something where, like, I think we've said it pretty consistently that there is some sort of vibe shift that's happened, or like happened around the time of Dangerous Gate, that it just kind of feels like it has been like swimming against the current ever since.
Yeah, and I think they've gotten over that just a little bit. You know, I love this most recent Cork and Hall show so much, and I think the outings that they've had have been passable at the very least. I mean, I'm looking forward to what's on paper for Gate of Destiny. I think that, you know, Dragongate is continuing to put themselves in a position where you look at their pay-per-view cards and you go, well, that should be good. But you also think about the luck they've had really over the last, it's like 3 years running now, where most of these big shows, you get, you know, one or two, you know, matches that deliver to the degree that they should, and then a few where, whether it's bad luck or just not delivering in the way that you think, you go, well, I thought that was going to be better, and Ishin versus Tanaka could very well be one of those matches on Gate of Destiny, but right now, I'm really looking forward to it, and I remain bullish on Kikuta versus Shimizu in terms of match quality. I think it's going to be great. I love their interactions here. Like you said, the shift to more of a heavyweight focus, I think, is a really good thing here. Something that Kikuta in particular can hopefully thrive at. I'm going to give you, plenty of opportunities as we lead up to this show to change your opinion on this. But as we sit here about 3/4 of the way through October, who is leaving Gate of Destiny as your Open the Dream Gate champion? Is it Kikuta or is it Shimizu?
So should we do percentages from here and then kind of track it over the next few weeks?
I think that'd be a great idea.
I will write this down to make
Please.
sure we keep track of this.
Thank God.
So walking out of Edion Arena 1, I'm going to write down, I'm going to have Kikuta and then Shimizu, and we'll revisit this. I think at this point, I am a 70% Shimizu winning, 30% Kikuta retaining as of today. Where are you at?
I'm probably 60-40 in favor of Shimizu. I'm very conflicted here because
Right.
you have to think back 18 months ago. They do Shimizu versus Kai. And I was saying leading up to that match, man, I think it's a real 50-50 shot. That match with Kai is the one that made everybody go, okay, he might actually be a good Dreamgate champion, because that was his second defense. His first was the match against Yoshida, which, set nobody up to win. And then from there goes, Shimizu and then Susumu. And then we realized, like, oh my God, Kai's actually, he's going to be a very good Dreamgate champion. So in the build to that match, Shimizu kept on winning via flash pin. And I was like, man, I think they could get away with this. I think they could tell the story where it's flash pin, flash pin, flash pin, and then Shimizu actually beats Kai with the shot put slam, and then we're off to the races. That was Champion Gate 2022. And we had Jay on, I think, right before that, and his point was like, well, Kai's already gotten a bunch of losses over him. I don't think Shimizu needs this win. We're now in a scenario where Kikuta's the one who pinned Shimizu and didn't pin him with a flash pin. He for lack of a better term, he beat the shit out of Shimizu to beat him in the match. And then he wins here, and it's like, all right, well, they're going to beat down Shimizu, beat down Shimizu, beat down Shimizu. And then maybe he comes out on top in his hometown, but you also have the wrinkle where he already beat Kikuta once. He beat him in King of Gate. So both guys are now not owed a win, but you could justify their win either way. It's a very, very unique position to be in. I think selfishly, I want Shimizu to win, so I'm going 60-40 as of now.
Yeah, and it's something where my 70-30 is with the era shift, with moving towards the Reiwa new leaders and fully out of Company Ace Yamato time. It's something where we need to kind of see who from the last generation is viable still as a Dreamgate challenger. And I don't know if Kikuta has the run that after you get through Shimizu, really, there's not a whole lot. Like, would you really want to do Kikuta versus Benkeitan this year? I don't think so. And
it's always looming at Final Gate, just for whatever reason. They love having been in that main event.
Right. Yeah. But outside of that, I think you're at a point where it's time to shuffle the deck. And I think with Kikuta, it's, as we've kind of been saying, it's not necessarily the circumstance. It's not necessarily him. It's the circumstances for this run. And I just think that, at least for me, with the company moving into next year, especially being the 25th anniversary year, you probably want to be able to offer some fresher title matches, and that precipitates you throwing the belt onto Shimizu.
Who do you think Shimizu's generational rival is? Like, if you could point to one, let's say Shimizu wins, and you've got, enough in the cannon for one big Shimizu Dreamgate defense. Who is that guy?
That's rough, because Shimizu is the
it's part of the story.
Yeah.
All of his generational peer is Eita, and his generational peer is UT. I mean, those are the guys that he's closest with, and Eita can't be bothered, and UT's not big enough.
Right. Yeah, because like the match you'd want to do, given that opportunity, is entirely him versus Eita, but that's not the world we operate in right now. So
and plus, they've got history as a tag team. Now I didn't even
Big E.
I didn't really set that up to bash Eita, but now I'm going to. That's a real bummer.
Yeah, it's something where, and especially with how the fallout of RED went with Shimizu, there was so much stuff that there were threads that were not tied with that feud, that because Eita going freelance probably won't get tied, Okay,
let me throw this at you, because I think there's a more obvious answer than maybe we realized at first. if Shimizu wins in November, are you bothered if they do Shimizu versus Ben in December?
No, because that tells me Shimizu is not going to be a belt polo, basically, because I don't think that they're really at a place where they're going to go full in with Ben-K as a Dreamgate champion again, right? At least in the near term. In the near term, like, I don't think Chicky Chicky is that kind of. It has extended him and it has given him new life, but it's something where I feel like that they want to build to that, and I just don't think at that point you can expect a title switch with him.
Yeah, it's the wrong time to do it for Ben. I think there was a point last year where it was so hot and so new that you could have done it, and I still think the gimmick has life. I just don't think now is the time to do it. I can't shake the thought of Ben maybe being the guy at World 2024, that 25th year anniversary show.
Yeah, and it is something that at least I think we could say as of October 18th, that's probably the one, like, kind of that's not the send you home happy story that everyone really kind of wants for a 25th anniversary, but I think Ben-K, like, with that kind of character, can send them home happily, especially if it's something where you're looking at Shun back with the title at that point, or maybe a heel Yoshioka.
Yeah, I could just, I really hadn't thought about that, of Ben, draped in gold with the charisma he has, with the character that he has. He's going to look good on the cover of a magazine. And if you're Dragongate, your 25th anniversary show is going to be the first time you've had a chance to get on the cover of Weekly Puro since the Yoshino retirement show. Got to have a guy that looks good on the cover of a magazine. Ben-K would be that guy.
Right, yeah. And it's something like, I guess, as we do have a date for Kobe World already for next year, right? I thought they announced one, or we should be having one.
I don't remember saying. Let me look real quick. We've got next year. We've got Gate of Bayside on the schedule. We've got the Korkins announced, and we've got the Doi Homecoming show. We actually don't have a date for Kobe yet. At least not. Let me check Twitter, but it's not on the Dragongate website.
I thought that we had one, but it is something, though, that, I mean, when we look at it, this is like the wild thing about this. We're probably only about 9 months out from this show. And I don't think that because of where Gate of Bayside is, we're probably not going to get the actual 25th anniversary show. Like, it's not going to be on 1/31/24. But I think for the idea of, like, the 25th big show at Kobe World or in the area is worth it,
Yeah, I don't see a date for World anywhere. I don't think that's been announced.
It's usually about this time. Maybe Gate of Destiny might be about when with that, but it's something where I kind of want to keep track of this, at least Kikuta and Shimizu momentum watch, as we are going into the last few weeks of the build to Osaka. I really, really enjoyed this D Courage versus KZ, Strong Machine J, and Shimizu main event on night 2. It was something where I felt like, with how these shows were, like as you were saying, it's not that these were bad shows. It's just very indicative of Dragongate. It's just that a lot of it, just not a lot of stuff was happening, and some of the stuff that was happening was not very good. But the M3K match before that and the main event, that was something that felt a lot like old Dragongate to me, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was a great weekend for M3K. They had 2 really, really enjoyable matches. The first show, it was the 6-man. It was Mochi, Susumu, and Kanda, the old crew, against D Courage. I would go 3 3/4 on that match. And then on the second show, I'd probably go 3.5 on the 8-man. It was all of M3K, Junior included, versus Luis Monte, Yamato, Dragon Kid, and Naruki Doi. I gotta say, there was a lot of Doi and Junior stuff in that match that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, there absolutely was. And it was something where I just like the idea that with the way that how M3K is, well, with everything kind of looming, and I guess we haven't really get to this. We do have Twin Gate challengers finally, and it is D Courage. So we do have that being played off of that as well, and it's pretty exciting. I feel like, especially the idea for Susumu and Kanda getting another, what I feel like is as big of a tag team match as Dragongate could put on at this point, at least given the last 2 years.
Yeah, look, I'm super into what we have for Gate of Destiny so far. We obviously have Kikuta versus Shimizu. Like you said, we have the D Courage versus M3K Twin Gate match, and then we have the Yamato Dragon Kid and Punch Tamanaga versus Don Fujii, Takashi Yoshida, and Bodyguard Triangle Gate match. We could talk about that in just a little bit. And we have Ishin versus Ryoya Tanaka in the Open the
Yeah.
Brave Gate match. So we've got our title matches set for Osaka.
Yeah, so let's talk about the night one main event. Ishin becomes a two-time Open the Brave Gate champion after defeating KZ. It is with a schoolboy after an inadvertent powder attack by Ryu Fuda. And then on the next night, Ishin coming out during the Royal Sambos, basically trash talking everything with it, ending with Genki Horiguchi winning the Royal Sambo, but last pinning a very spry Ryoya Tanaka. And basically Horiguchi said, okay, Ishin, here's the thing. You could either face me, who's 45, and you know what that entails, or you could face Tanaka, who has not won a match yet. And he decided to face Tanaka. I've been really impressed with Ryoya Tanaka, by the way. I thought that he had a cool weekend. But this Brave Gate match, him and KZ, Ishin and KZ, I like this one much more than Gate of Origin. This one really kind of felt like the match that they were going to have, or getting the belt onto KZ briefly and then getting back onto Ishin. This was kind of felt more like the complete match what you'd expect out of KZ and Ishin for the Brave Gate.
What do you make of the 1 week KZ run? They throw the belt on him at Origin and then they give it right back to Ishin in Kobe. I don't feel strongly one way or another about it. Where do you stand on that?
I'm not bothered by it. Like I'm not strongly pro. I'm not strongly against. I think it was something where, we were going to promise a big hometown match for Ryu Fuda in the main event here, a Brave Gate match. We had it announced. How are we going to do this? Well, you could put the belt on KZ for 6 days, and Ishin's going to come out of this looking just fine.
Do you think had Fuda been healthy, they would have done the same thing? They would have belted Fuda up in Sendai and then given the belt right back to Ishin?
No, I think Ishin puts him down, and then we move on to Tanaka, to be honest. I think that it was just something just to make Gate of Origin to save that show, at least in the hometown people's eyes.
I think you're probably right there, and I'm with you. I went 4 stars on KZ versus Ishin. Look, I thought it was one of the best Ishin singles matches that we've seen. I'm still looking for him, and I've gone really back and forth with him this year. I did not like him in the first quarter of the year. I really struggled with the direction he was going, almost a zombified version of himself. The last thing Z-Brats needed was another guy who didn't want to wrestle good matches, and I thought that was the direction he was going for a while. They flipped that, and he's all of a sudden become this sort of brute force, energetic, I would say power junior, but I think really he's a power heavy. I certainly don't think he fits the Brave Gate weight requirements anymore. This man looks huge.
He might be 90 kilos. There's no way he's 82.
He's built. He looks like Ishii or something. Like he's just a heavyweight at this point. Even if he's not that tall, he's just a very, very large man now.
It's his genetics. We knew this going in. His dad's a former sumo. He did like high school sumo. Like it was going to happen.
And it's amazing that, both his father and his brother, Ricky, ex-Dragongate guy, they've gone in the opposite direction. They've become competitive bodybuilders and have 0% body fat.
Yeah, that one photo of Ricky Hashi was enough for me to go like, all right, I hope the best for you. It's along lines of Case. You do know that Keisuke Kikuta lost another shoot boxing match, right?
Get the fuck out. No, he did not.
Yeah, he did. Like 2 weeks ago, I've been waiting to drop this on you, and I feel like talking about weird ex-Dragongate guys, this is the time. Yeah, he's lost again. And the thing that gets me is he always pens the tweet of him apologizing for losing.
Has he won anything?
I don't think so. I don't think he's won a kickboxing shoot fight, any of this stuff since he's left. Not won a single one.
I mean, look, he didn't win any while he was there. It's part of the reason he got let go. I'm floored by this.
Yeah. No, go to his Twitter account, Kay. It's that look at the photo that he literally is posting the L that he
Okay, I'm loading up the Danger Zone Twitter. Oh my god, he's getting his ass kicked.
Yeah. Former sometimes Bravegate champions don't pan out.
No, I just went to his cage match to see what he did at Gate of Destiny in 2021, but I guess he got hurt because he didn't wrestle at all in November, but it led me to the SB Kento Kaisuke Ikuta Bravegate series that they did in Osaka, which was really exciting and drew well in Osaka given the restrictions at the time. And we have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, it seems like Okuda will not be participating in what seems to be keeping Shoot Wrestling alive. I don't think he's going to be jumping over to Ledet anytime soon.
Is there a name? Well, you got to remember he's Ultimo's nephew, so
right, yeah.
And I'm not telling tales out of school there. That's been public info for a little bit, but yeah, that's so that's fascinating. I've never really thought about that. He is a GLEAT guy, true and true, and he can't go because he's related to Ultimo.
Yep.
Oh my god, I could just see him and Soma Watanabe having a great 7-minute match that means nothing in the grand scheme of things. That's crazy.
Yeah, and the loser has to go have a UWFI match with Shinya Aoki. You will lose in 10 minutes. That's just how it's going to go.
Has there ever been somebody... Because I've got a name in mind that I'm trying to compare him to. Just anybody in Dragongate that was so hot and then so not. Like, I don't know that anybody's ever had a fall from grace quite like Okuda. Because Punch and Problem Dragon, they were never hyped. You and I, and rightfully so, because I think the stuff kicked ass, we loved Kaisuke Okuda for a little bit.
Yeah, it is something where... of people that like make it, because we've heard of like, oh wait, there's someone in the dojo that's gonna blow your brain. Like we've heard like tales like that for years, but like someone actually like crossing over and like having that kind of moment in the sun. I mean, it's completely different kind of scenario, but the way that pretty much Naoki Tanizaki did that last Dead or Alive match and completely disappeared is kind of similar to that to me.
Yeah, but I Tanizaki is at least like I enjoy him when he pops up. I would watch Okuda do a pro wrestling match out of morbid curiosity, but I mean this man almost tanked Benkei's career. I can't get over that. We talked to somebody who goes to a lot of shows in Kobe, and I'll just never forget. By the way, Altuve just made up for hitting one of the track. He just hit one out of the ballpark.
Yeah. What did I say this game would be like?
Yeah, this is the Astros getting even.
Yep, callback game.
Yeah. Somebody that we talked to that goes to a lot of shows in Kobe mentioned that I think it was May of last year that Ben and Okuda did the intermission autograph signing, and there was practically nobody there. Just nobody had any interest in them. Cut forward ahead, 4 months, Ben is at the very beginning of the Chicky Chicky stuff, and the whole building is lined up to see him. It's just this guy... Again, his Bravegate run was a test. They tried to have him do Dragongate things. There's a reason that, and he was Bravegate champion for a long time. It was the Ishida stuff. Then it was Kagetora and Hyo and Punch and UT. And the UT match was really good, but the rest of it was just, okay, what can you do that isn't just your thing? And he failed every test he had.
Yeah, and it just became very clear at like a certain point that it just was not going to work out. I mean, like, would you say that he is the reason that High End failed? No, but he definitely was a major contributing factor. Like, I mean, one could probably say that he like pulled back Yamato and Dragon Kid's year that year.
Yeah. Well, the name that I had in my head, just because I don't have the perspective on this, and I don't know if you did, was Sugawara ever hyped? Was there ever like a Sugawara crew that was really into him? Because he obviously does not have a very strong public opinion right now, but I'm not sure if that's always been the case or if there was a time when he was actually, people liked him.
So of my 16 years of following the Dragon system and going back and trying to consume as much of it as I can, Sugawara was never really talked highly of. Ever.
That's what I assume.
Yeah, no. And the only time I've ever heard anyone say anything positive about him wrestling-wise is, oh, he's actually doing okay stuff in 0-1. which mixtape like twice a year. And I'm like,
And,
okay.
I would argue as somebody that still watches 0-1, I would not say he's doing okay in 0-1.
Yeah, I really don't want to see schlubby Takuya Sugawara in his purple trash bag pants go have like a depressing match out in front of the war crime shrine. Like, I don't need to watch that.
I think that was that Shingo versus Masato Tanaka match. Was that in front of the war crime shrine?
Yep.
That's a fucking good match, man. Look, beggars can't be choosers. I'm gonna separate the art from the artist here. That was good stuff.
I mean, it would make sense for Shingo, but
well, you can't win them all.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Tanaka getting put into this position? So
I'm into it. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
So I was just going to set the stage a little bit for Ryoya Tanaka, the only true class of 2023 debutee, has not won a match, has really kind of, I would say, not receded into the background, but I would say that out of everyone of this generation, it's not like that, other than you seek out stuff for him, like you go seek out him at Buyuden, you go seek him out in other things. You're not necessarily like, he's not the one jumping off the screen to you. Only 24 matches. He's not a local either. So this is not, okay, he's in his hometown here. He's from Hyogo. He's from the same prefecture that Tozawa's from.
I will repeat myself here, but I do it with purpose. Tanaka's so interesting because he hasn't had the show me match yet. He hasn't had the match that you and I can send to people and go, hey, Dragongate has another new kid. He's going to be amazing. Ignore this DM and then, we'll all regret it in 5 years. I think this is going to be that opportunity. I saw somebody, I don't remember who it was. I want to give them credit, but I'm not going to because I don't remember who they were. But there's probably a large parallel between what this match could be for Tanaka and what Dragon Dia versus Takuma Fujiwara represented for Fujiwara, because at the time, Fujiwara debuted November of 2021. We saw flashes on those Korakuen shows where it was like, wait a minute, who is this string bean? Who is this, Michinoku Pro, adjacent kid? What's going on here? But the Dia match was still really, really early in his career. And then what's, messed up to think about is we only got 2 more months of Fujiwara in Japan after that. 6 months really in Japan all told. And, that was the match that we were able to send off to people and go, hey, this kid is special. This is 4 months into his career and he's doing this. Tanaka's in the same boat here. And I think this could very easily be the same sort of match for Tanaka. I'd like for this match to open the show. I think that would be very good for everybody involved. You don't want it too late because Ishin's obviously going to win. You don't want that heat too late in the show. I think that's a great way to start the show. Have Tanaka bounce around, have Ishin do his thing. Hopefully this match is really violent. It's really stiff. And I think Tanaka can have a huge showcase here.
Yeah, the way I kind of look at it right now, with at least the 4 title matches that we have, this is the one where, like, this will sound nasty. I want to see Ishin bust this kid up. Like,
right?
He needs to have, like, that kind of thing. I kind of, in a way, I know you brought up Fujiwara, and I do see that. I feel like Tanaka is going to be someone like BB Hulk.
How so?
It is something where, like, he was always kind of, like, for those who don't know, and for just a reminder, he was someone that when there was a documentary series done about Dragongate, We Are Dragongate, he was the dojo trainee that they kind of made into like the viewer as a character kind of thing, and he was debuted like right before that happened. He was on the Kobe World card, very kind of, I don't want to say kids gloves, but presented in a certain way that's not dissimilar to with BB Hulk, especially at the beginning, where it's like, oh, he has like this idea where Magnum Tokyo kind of takes him under his wing, and very much so it's like, here is like our new sterling prospect, and we're going to kind of push him to succeed, and it's going to kind of be this kind of high flyer but also striker kind of thing. And I would not be surprised if 5 years from now we're talking about like the first 5 years for Tanaka very similarly to the first 5 years of BB Hulk's career.
Yeah, I think there's probably a through line you can make with Fujiwara and Hulk and Tanaka that's I think they're all very similar, and you got to remember, internally the company thought when Fujiwara left was, okay, well this sucks, but we have Tanaka who can do all the things he can do, and he's better looking, and boy is that
Right.
true now more than ever.
Yeah, it's something that I mean, he's a pretty boy. That is something that within this company that has always made a big thing about appealing to women and LGBT community. It is important to kind of have this kind of presented pretty boy character. I mean, like that's I'm forgetting the phrase kind of for it, but it makes sense, and it's part and parcel of their strategy. It's just something where for Tanaka, who again 24 matches he's had in his career, not debuted in April. It's a nice thing to see that he's kind of given this scenario, I would say. Oh no, he debuted in late May. My bad.
Yes, that's even sooner. What's your favorite Tanaka performance up to this point? Is it the most recent Buyuden show?
Oh, absolutely. The Buyuden Zero Volume 3 with him teaming up with Mochizuki Jr. as the captain with Yoshiki Kato versus the Noah rookies Kai Fujimura, Taishi Ozawa, Yu Owada up on the Dragongate network. That was something where I was happy to see Tanaka get down and dirty with it. It was something that was desperately needed for him at that point of his career.
I'm in the same boat. I have nothing really to add there other than I love that match as much as you did.
Random thought. Could Tanaka being in this role make up for Nagano being hurt?
I think he has more potential than Nagano. If it fills that void, it's unintentional. I don't think they're looking at him as a substitute in the same way that you can sort of draw parallels between Kato and Tien. I don't think Tanaka is... They're like, oh, well, at least we have Tanaka. I think they think better of Tanaka than they do Nagano.
Yeah, I guess the reason why I think that is because this kind of got... Yes, Kobe is in Hyogo Prefecture. That essentially was like his hometown show this weekend for him. But next week is in Fukuoka right before the pay-per-view. And that's Kaito Nagano's hometown.
Kaito Nagano country.
Yeah, and it's something that it just kind of popped in my head. That was like, this feels super early. Like, I feel like that's something we have to acknowledge. 24 matches in, essentially 4-month career, getting a Brave Gate shot. That's fast. Whereas for Kaito Nagano, just pulling up his overall history, he's coming up on that 1-year anniversary. He's had the 1-year anniversary, 100 matches. I think that you kind of look at it and you're like, okay, that's the right time for him to get that kind of opportunity to kind of see where he's at. And that's why I wonder.
Yeah, well, and this is where my short-term memory is going to fail me. It didn't seem, and maybe I'm wrong, tell me, did it feel like Nagano was gearing up for something before his injury?
It was something where I'm looking at his most recent the matches he had before he went down on the 30th. That's the wild thing. It was like 2 weeks ago, but it feels like a lifetime ago.
It's so weird. Dragon gets into these voids during this time of the year when there's like a 6-week gap between their big shows. Because I was just thinking, it was literally last week that we did 2 hours and 15 minutes, and there was so much to talk about. That feels like it was a month ago. And then this week, we're talking about hypothetical Kaito Nagano situations.
Yeah, no, I mean that is something that we probably. Things will change, but hypothetical Kaito Nagano situations is a good show title.
Do you hear, by the way, this is unrelated to that, do you hear the bass going off on my microphone right now?
No, not whatsoever. You sound great.
Oh my God. It's like Timbaland moved in next to me. I don't know what my neighbor is doing. I've lived here over a year. I've never heard a sound. There is a bass coming from his apartment right now that is rattling my walls.
Man, I don't know. I was going to say, like, I have the baseball game on mute. I know that 4 runs in the first 2 innings would get a crowd kind of dead tired, or will quiet down a crowd. But it looked like I was going to say, like, maybe you're hearing the bass of that. Maybe.
No, he's got like a kick drum going now. I don't know what is. I'm glad it's not being picked up on mic. But that is the most noise I've ever heard in this apartment building. Everybody here stays silent. It's how I like it. I'm sure I annoy people because I don't I'm not exactly in a soundproof area. You know, I'm sure my voice can bleed out in the hallway, but I hope he's having a good time. He's blaring some music right now.
I mean, are you certain that he's not the drummer from Lightning Bolt?
Well, I can't make that guarantee. I'm not sure if it's likely, but I can't rule it out.
Does Lightning Bolt even still exist?
I don't
They d-
I don't think so. I know Lightning Bolt in name, not in story.
Different generation than you, but it was a big 2-piece noise rock group.
Yeah,
That was
I'm
big in
not. There's a reason I don't know much about it.
There we go.
I got to be honest. That sounds terrible, Mike.
Hey, I mean, it's sometimes you just want to hear a bunch of guitar and drums. But
Not me. But okay, so we've got the Bravegate match, Tanaka and Ishin. I'm looking forward to it. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's talk about the Open the Dragongate scene real quick.
I mean, Band-Aid. It was the best thing happening on these undercards, case.
I guess a low bar is still a bar cleared.
Okay, so story time. I'm trying to get which match exactly it was. During the Dragon Kid versus Doi and Luis Monte match and the lead up to it on the 14th, Punch Tominaga comes out first. He's been wearing all the belts because he is the Triangle Gate champion, as they've decided. And in this pre-match, someone comes out wearing a balaclava, but wearing a Dragon Gate tracksuit. Case, what was the name on the back of that tracksuit that the camera made sure we all knew very clear?
It was FUJII, one Don Fujii.
That's right, our favorite AARP carrying kleptomaniac came out, stole the belt. The next night, another person comes out in a balaclava wearing new gear that we've only really seen this person wear the night before. It was Takashi Yoshida as that. And then after the semifinal on night 2 on the 15th, the M3K Yamato, Dragon Kid, Doi, and Louise match that we talked about, Yamato grabs the microphone and just goes like, all right, we're finishing this. Like, Doi, you can just like take a step back here. Don Fujii, get out here. What's the game here? And essentially, Don Fujii gives back the belt because Yamato agrees to open the Triangle Gate title match between Don Fujii, Takashi Yoshida, and the Bodyguard are the first challengers against Yamato, Dragon Kid, and Punch Tominaga. We should have saw this coming. They never go to this building without calling up their favorite friend based in Osaka.
That's what I was going to ask. Was Mike, tell the folks at home, why is the Bodyguard on this show?
Because you don't. He is a great ticket seller in Osaka. He goes, he gets his friends in there. He does a great job, and it's something kind of charming in a way that he is kind of. Yeah, I mean, he's the guy from Osaka we want to see. We remember like the last, like when Bodyguard first showing up, Case, who also came along that week for that Gate Destiny.
Oh God, I don't know.
Oh, that was Taru when Taru cut the promo calling Shima us.
Fuck, that's right. I was thinking it was Zeus, but no, it was Taru.
It was Taru, who still technically is family, but we
don't really invite him to the holidays.
No. Funerals, basically. That's what.
Yeah, it's like every 5th year. It's like, well, we haven't seen him in a while.
We're good for a couple of years though.
Yeah. Oh, good. Absolutely. No, it's not a back-to-back thing.
No. I mean, we're good because he showed up at Ultimo 35. We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
We're good. But yeah, no, Bodyguard doing this. It's something where I always kind of like when he kind of pops up. It's very charming. It's one of those things that in a match now that like, hey, what were we going to expect with a Punch Tominaga Triangle Gate team? Like, you get Don Fujii. He's going to try to toss Punch up off of something. Takashi Yoshida is going to do all of the crowd calls and the Bodyguard will be over. Yamato goes and pens Don Fujii for Galleria, and we move on for life.
Yeah, that's the thing. It'll be in the middle of the card. It'll be fine. It'll be a fun gift to come out of it, and we'll all move on. I'm not bothered by this because it makes sense to get the Bodyguard on the show, so I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah, it's something where Bodyguard does a lot of the new Osaka Pro right now, and there are others from there that I think would be really fun if they wanted to revisit Dragon Gate versus Osaka Pro right now.
I would love nothing more.
I would love to see my main man Black Buffalo back in a Dragon Gate ring.
I think he just had an anniversary show.
Yeah, he did. He did. It was his 30th, I believe.
God, that's who would have thought. Black Buffalo's been wrestling 30 years.
I think it's 30 or 25. Like
It was 30. You're right. Yeah, main event: Black Buffalo, Kamen and Tsubasa versus Aron Sano, who I don't know. I think that's the one kid that's in the Osaka Pro Dojo. And then Ryuya Matsufasu and Zeus, the main event. So Osaka Pro, I think they have like a half hour on Gaora that airs every once in a while, but I wish I would see more of them.
Yeah, did not know until just now. You know who the Osaka Pro champion is?
I don't. I'm not looking. I don't know.
So do you want to play a quick 5 questions? Remember this guy thing?
Sure.
Technically is a part of the Cold War.
Okay.
Is in Glade.
Okay.
Is I believe, former G Infinity champion.
G Infinity is the tag belts?
He is not. He is surprisingly not a G Infinity tag champion.
But the Osaka Pro champion's a Gleek guy.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Bork Orchestra.
Oh, well, it's not Cosma. And it's unfortunately not the Galeno del Mal, although it should be. That, and I would know if it's Czech. So just by process of elimination, I think I'm going to kill your bit, but I think it's Quiet Storm.
Congratulations, Case. This was your best performance on Remember This Guy.
Well, I know my Bulk Orchestra history really well. It's an honor.
Hey, it's just important to get points on the board.
The one Osaka Pro match that I wanted to check out was they did like a light heavyweight tag tournament, I think, and it got some buzz. I think the finals of that was supposed to be really good, and I never made time for that. I'm thinking out loud now at this point. I don't know if I ever got to that. I need to.
Is Osaka Pro technically family though? I feel like they are. So I feel like that they are justified to be pontificating about this. Was this the one with Mariyama in the final?
I think so. But hold on. Well, okay. Politically,
yeah,
they were family because
Gamma.
They had Gamma and I guess they raided Kishiwada. But Gamma's more affiliated with Gleet now. But he's not affiliated. It's Zeus, and Zeus feels very much like Switzerland.
Yes, I would say that current day Osaka Pro is Switzerland. Now I'm more thinking about it.
I love that. All right, good for them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually surprised Kikuta is not on their roster. Surprises me.
He worked. No, that's Ebasan. Never mind. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's just something that kind of like popped in my head with that there, but it's something where I kind of look at whenever they go into Osaka for Gate of Destiny, and it's something where adding Bodyguard to this kind of provides like an Osaka flavor that I also, other than the ticket sales, I kind of like the idea that they do a little bit more for that hometown. But like they've always been very pointed about Osaka natives getting title matches on these shows, but adding in someone like Bodyguard, I think, is always a strong thing for them to do.
Absolutely. So that is Gate of Destiny. We've got the 4 title matches set. I'm sure we'll get the full card after this Fukuoka weekend. Mike, I wanted to throw something at you real quick, a little bit more of a history lesson in Dragongate, because I think you're the guy to ask this question to. I have become increasingly obsessed with the output of work that I am seeing from D-Courage, not as singles wrestlers, not as a tag team, but as a trio. I think this team has done phenomenal work this year. I have 8 trios matches with D-Courage at 4 stars or higher, and if you go back to last year, when Kikuta joined first as an assistant, then as an official member, I have another 4 matches of theirs at 4 stars or higher. The highest ranked of that bunch is the most recent 3-way 9-man trios match for the Dragongate belts, D-Courage Gold Class, and then Dragon Kid, Punch, and Yamato. What I wanted to know from you is that when we look at trios in the history of Dragongate, who is better than this team? Is there a Dragongate team that sticks out to you? Are there Dragongate teams that stick out to you? I can't imagine there's another team that never won the belts but had this prolific of a trios run. Whereas you mentioned last week when I talked about this, it's odd Courage has never been Dragongate champions. Who comes to your mind when you think of those guys in Dragongate?
So I have a couple teams for you. And I think that we're going to start with a pretty strong classic one, because this one, we're going to go back with this one. And this is just the first one I kind of want to throw out there. The big story about the Dragongate belts were basically short reigns and then monster reigns while nothing really happened to it. Case in point, the fifth champions are still the longest tenured Open the Dragongate champions of all time. Shima, Magatu Kishiwada, and Masato Yoshino almost had a full calendar year, only had 3 Dragongate matches, and I can't really say that they had any sort of defining match or anything during that run. Would you?
Well, okay, so the match where they win the belts,
2 out of 3 falls against
yes,
Victor.
And it's so that what they do. So, and this is a weird one. This is a weird sort of anecdote in the history of Dragon Gate. The 2005 TV schedule is 1 block of TV and 1 live pay-per-view a month. So for most of the months, the Cork and Hall show is the pay-per-view where you get it in full. But in March and in July, they did the Bravegate tournament pay-per-view, and then there was obviously Kobe World. So that becomes the show that you get in full, and then the Korokins those months were relegated to TV. So this is lost out in the ether a little bit. The 2005 Korokins circulated really well. The rest of the TV did not as much. So I don't think a lot of people have seen. This is July 12th, 2005. It's DK, Genki, and Saito versus, like you said, it's Shima, Kishiwada, and Yoshino. They do a 2 out of 3 falls match that ends in a DQ, but they wrestle. It's 15 minutes, 16 minutes before they call for the DQ, and then they restart the match and do another 22 minutes elimination style, and that is how Blood Generation wins these belts. All told, if you combine those 2 matches into one giant segment, it's some of the best stuff from 2005, but it is a little bit lost to time because of the way that it aired. So they have, to me, one iconic match, but then the rest of it is not on that level by any means.
So I brought up that trio to talk about the trio, the original top, I would say, Dragongate team. And that is their opponents in that night. Dragon Kid, Genki Horiguchi, and Ryo Saito. As a pair, they had 3 different Dragongate runs, as do Fixer, including and outside of that, the 331.06 match. I think that they kind of are the first watermark to compare them.
Mike, I think that is a really great answer and not one I even had on my notes, because if you go through some of their defenses here, they win the titles in a Sapporo Tenshin Hall match, 2 out of 3 falls, DK, Genki, Saito versus Shima, Doi, and Shingo. That match aired in full on TV, but Ditch, on the old Ditch site, he had clipped it down, I think, to just the final fall, but both versions exist. That match is incredible. And then they go to Korakuen, where it's Kines, Susumu, and Nakajima. They defend the belts against them. I love that match. There's a Pos Hearts match in that first title reign that I don't remember, but I'm sure it's fine. And then you go into the second one, which is, let's see here. Yeah, it's okay. So it's the one we just talked about. They lose the match, but they're in the World 2005 Dragongate match, which I think is one of the best Dragongate matches of all time. And then let's take a look at their third run here. This is 2006, and it's only one match. I don't think I've seen this. But when you factor those in, and then 331.06, Mike, I think we might have found our answer. I have a few teams here that I'd like to go through, but this might be the best trio of all time.
Yeah, it's something where I think I'm just going to rifle off a couple quick ones for you, and if there's ones that are also on your list, we can kind of compare and contrast here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that after that one, you are looking. It's not that there were bad teams for a while. It just was something that you did not really have a defining team. It is something where it's a shame that Don Fujii, Masaki Mochizuki had 2 great Triangle Gate runs, one with Kness and one with Magnitude Kishiwada, that weren't just like the same run, because that would be up there for me.
That's a great point, yeah.
But the one that I kind of want to bring up that I think is a really, really powerful one is Blood Warriors from 2010, Shima, Dragon Kid, and Ricochet.
So that is one that I certainly looked at, because I think it is a pretty iconic trios team, which is, notable because Spiked Mohicans is a tag team, Shima and Ricochet. I would find few teams better than them. The thing that I started looking at is their Triangle Gate run, which is December 2010 through May 2011. I just don't think I've seen a lot of these matches. The one that I have for sure is their defense against Hulk, Pac, and Susumu.
Yeah.
That match fucking kicks ass. Oh my god, is that match good?
That's close to that might be a 4 and between 4 3/4 and a 5 stars match. Like for me personally,
that is a rare. I mean, Susumu was not on World 1 for a very long time, so it's rare just to that degree. But there's some Ricochet Pac stuff in that match that is just, it's stupid. I mean, it is unreal how good they are.
Yeah. Other teams, speaking about Pac, did you have the World 1 International team on your list?
I had Hulk, Yoshino, and Pac from World 1,
Really?
not the World 1 International team.
You see the downfall of World 1 with like how everything kind of worked, and then it goes into Tanizaki like this. You're thinking about the 2009 team, right?
Yes, yeah. Hulk, Yoshino, and Pac, they won the belts June 2009, lost them October 2009. An underrated Kobe World defense against Tozawa, Dragon Kid, and Taku Iwasa, and then 2 matches against Akebono, Fuji, and Mochizuki.
Yeah, and I feel like that was kind of the best use of Akebono at that time.
Yes.
Whenever he was in here with that. It's something for me when we're talking about these teams. I don't think I've yet come across one that I think is stronger than that Do-Fixer team. I kind of want to fast forward super far, and this is a title run that I'm not nominating, Case, but it's one that I think has to be brought up and talked about. Let's talk about Monster Express, Akira Tozawa, Masato Yoshino, and T-Hawk being like the exact opposite of actually being like a team you remember, even though they had, 280 days as champions, and 273 days as champions, 5 title defenses, just kind of existed.
Yeah, I don't think any of these were particularly memorable. They did the Sumo Jimmy's match. They did another Jimmy's match in Hakata. I remember liking the Kobe World match. This was, talking about remembering some guys. Tozawa, Yoshino, and T-Hawk versus Hulk, Flamita, and KZ versus Shima, Dragon Kid, and Peter Casa. And I remember really liking that, but we're at that point almost, 8 months into this Triangle Gate run with 3 stars and just a team that had no penetration in terms of emotional care whatsoever.
And that kind of was the problem about late generation Monster Express when they added in T-Hawk. It just was not there for it. One I want to offer, though, I would have to go like way back through my notes and go through each one of these title defenses because I had a lot of it. Where do you have KZ, Genki, and Susumu from 2018 on your list?
So this is one of the teams I want to ask you about.
Okay.
I think this is a team that probably suffers in my mind just because of the era they existed in. But when you go through these reigns, Fuji, Kness, and Saito was a lot of fun. Masato Tanaka, Takashi Yoshida, and Yasushi Kondo was not. Kagetora, Yuti, and Maria, I loved that team. That is maybe the closest thing we have to another non-Triangle Gate Trios team that was awesome. I remember really liking that match. But it's not a team that I think, oh my god, you had to have been there for the Natural Vibes 2018 run. I just don't have that fondness to it, but on paper they have a very strong resume.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is that they just were products of, like, they were the best thing happening in the company at that time. At least title run wise, I would say. Especially that 2018 badness.
Well, yes, because they win the belts from Jason, Yoshino, and Doi, and at the time, these shows were dominated. The only thing that I would really look forward to on like a Kobe show was whatever Maximum was doing, and maybe the Mochizuki Dojo guys rather. And when Maximum lost the belts, I remember being really, really bummed because I thought Jason, Yoshino, and Doi had a ton of potential. I mean, I think the Final Gate 2017 match where they win the belts is, if not a top 10 Dragon Gate match in history, top 15, top 20. And then they have a very short reign, and then it goes to Vibes. And I think that left a bad taste in my mouth in the moment. And then, 2018 Dragon Gate is just not a very good promotion. So I don't look back at their reign very fondly.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that happens with these trios, that it's easy. I think we've discovered that you have your Moroha Isapas, you have your Speed Muscles, you have your Yamadois, like the ones that they will have a run and then you'll revisit it. It's just difficult for a trio unless you have a do fixer thing, or you have a situation like D-Courage where just because of the fact that there's three of them, and more often than not, one of them has the Dreamgate title, so they're not a Triangle Gate team, is kind of the thing we're kind of discovering. Like, they had longevity just because they could not necessarily have the belts.
The only other team that I wanted to throw at you, and I'm just curious where you think of them a few years removed from the act, is where are you at with Strong Machines?
Conflicted.
Yeah, right?
It is something where I think that it was something where they did not have a good way to get Jay out of that act and into Natural Vibes, and part of that was injury history. Part of that, frankly, is booking. Like, it is something where, like, he was just kind of vaguely around Team Dragongate right, while he was healthy during that time. I mean, he was an the Triangle Gate champion with Team Dragongate, but there was no coherence with him in that. That was just him with his peers. And you look at the rest of the act, like, hey, Don Fujii is Strong Machine F at this point. Like, it worked out. Like, Don Fujii is at the point of his career where you could plug him in here. He works well in that style, and it's fantastic. G and Gamma, how do you feel about this kind of being the last notable thing that Gamma did in his Dragon Gate career?
I think it was better than most other things he did, so I'm fine with it.
So I guess, like, where I'm coming to is, it's not that I dislike the act. I just was sad about the follow-up, and it's not even necessarily where you could do any finger point.
No, it's a weird deal where that act peak where when they won the titles, and I remember liking the defense they had against Mochizuki Dojo, not really liking the defense they had against Tribe Vanguard, and not really liking the defense they had against Maximum, and then they lost the belts. It's they were so strange. By the time they had lost the belts, I was so sick of them that I can't possibly put them in the same light as, obviously, a DK, Genki, and Saito, or even just what we've seen with D-Courage, where I think, they've now existed for over a year, but I think they feel really fresh as a trio specifically. Strong Machine J did not have that benefit to them.
Yeah, and it is something where, do we think that it's also like that when they had to get the belts off him, it was mainly because Jay was hurt, right?
Yes, yeah. But by the time that reign had ended, we were all very, very concerned about his shoulder.
Yeah, so the belts went to Hyo, Yoshida, and RED, something I never need to think about again, and Diamante.
Yeah, there you go.
There is one what if team. Just because I'm looking at the ledger right now, Case.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have had a long time, but I would have loved to see what would have happened if Kenichiro Arai did not completely shatter his shoulder in that Triangle Gate match.
So what was that team? Remind me, because I'm not looking at it.
Dragon Kid, Arakan, and Ryo Saito.
Yeah, that's strange, because not only is Arakan at the end of the line, but so is Saito.
Yeah, I mean, essentially Saito, although he participates in Team Boku through the end of 2020 and into 2021, he's mainly part-time by that time next year.
Yeah. I mean, it was so odd when they won the belts that it just seemed like, where is this going to go? But then it did not end up mattering, because Arakan hurt his shoulder, and then COVID happened, and by the time they came back, it was like, oh my god, who are the Triangle Gate champions?
So Strong Machine J were the Triangle Gate champions because they had to get the belt off of.
Oh, that's right, because it was God, that's right.
That Champion Gate show when it was very clear that this was it for a while.
So they won the belts in February and then lost them at Champion Gate. Is that right?
21 days. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense.
Right. Yeah. It's just kind of one of those things with that. But I think that it is something also kind of worth considering here that we have not really mentioned any of these teams that have been like the two leaders and then the number two. Like, we're not talking about a World 1 team that is Doi Yoshi Hulk. That never really happened. And that's never really happened. Like, arguably, I'm just looking through the most recent ones, like Gold Class. Yes, sure, that's there in the case, but it's not, you don't always have your max firepower on these teams. Like, after that, like going back after that, like the Masquerade very quick team to break up it was like the last other example of very clearly, okay, you have Shunshot Skywalker, that's the one. Kodama North, there's 2. Jason Lee was 3. Like, there's just not a lot of that happens in this promotion that I kind of find kind of fascinating.
Okay, let me ask you one more question. This is what I'll end on because I've got nothing else after this. You've got to throw Ryoya Tanaka in a unit right after Gate of Destiny. What unit is he going into?
The problem is the unit I want to throw him in is the unit I want to throw everyone into, Case, and it's just not happening. Like, I put him in Decourage, of course. Like, they need to have someone eat falls and need to be able to have more of an impact on the cards. Like, I think how much I've been saying that like the 3 people units have been an overwhelming issue, I feel like, of card construction over the last 18 months.
I feel like if anybody has a shot at joining Decourage, it's Tanaka. That feels right, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It is something where like he does kind of actually look a little bit like Daya too.
Yeah,
like,
a little bit. Yeah,
he has a little bit of the countenance of that. Yeah, and age-wise, I mean, he's not much older than Kikuta. That's the wild thing. Kikuta is still like a baby.
Yeah, it's insane.
In the
All right,
greatest
well, look, save this audio, and if Tanaka joins Decourage, I think we're gonna have a field day with this because I think it's the one guy that has a realistic chance of joining that unit.
No, it is something now where, as we're kind of now 18 months into Decourage at this point, like this is kind of the thing. Like, as soon as he says he's pitch hitting for them, we know it's done, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like that makes a lot of sense there. Well, Case, we were talking about Tanaka. There is another future guy who has been in the middle of it since returning. Yoshiki Kato had his matches 2 and 3 of his trial series. It was against Yamato on night 1 and then against Shun Skywalker on night 2. What was your thoughts about the Skywalker match? And 2, how are you feeling about Kato right now going through this?
Well, he got knocked out in the Skywalker match. I mean, I thought he looked good for as long as he was present. You know, I thought he looked good in the Yamato match too. Again, you know, he is a guy, and we've said this since last year when he was wrestling exhibition matches. He doesn't move around the ring like a Dragongate wrestler. Somebody, you know, I mentioned this last week. Somebody attended the most recent Corkin show that's a lapsed Dragongate fan, hadn't watched the promotion in a while, and their comment to me was, God, he wrestles like a big Japan guy, not a Dragongate guy. You know, how is that going to work? And I said, well, you know, I think a lot of people are in his corner. I think he has a lot of supporters, you know, both within the company and I think the fans are getting behind him. It was very apparent watching both the Yamato and the Shun matches. He's a bit of a different beast than Dragongate has had, but I liked what I saw.
Yeah, it was something for me, at least. I adored the Yamato match. Like, you knew I was going to. It was basically replaying King of Chop for 2023. And, like, the fact that it was from the start. Like, did you notice, like, on, like, their initial face-off, like, the shoulder check that they did, it was the single loudest shoulder check I've heard in 5 years.
It was a very loud match.
Yeah, it was a very loud match, and Case, if you're going to beat the crap out of each other, I feel like that it is kind of in my wheelhouse enough to be really into it. The Skywalker one, I thought it was a fascinating match, even with what happened with it. I didn't catch what got him. I think it was probably one of those big boots.
Yes, I would assume so.
It was something where Skywalker, with the way he carries himself and like the wrestling style, I like the fact that he just did not give any quarter to him. and that was very much like, oh, Shun Skywalker pays attention. He knows that Kato kind of is like the raging bull kind of guy. Don't let him get going. So he just immediately started throwing bombs on him. And then I did like how Skywalker did. He ended up getting the win after the moonsault knees, but the match was over basically after his mind got erased from a big boot. But the first tease for the moonsault knees, like it looked like that Skywalker was going to walk away like in a minute, but he just immediately rolled him over into a Boston Crab. That I cracked up at that. I thought that was tremendous.
Yeah.
It is worth noting that as of time of recording here on the night of the 18th, as we look to Fukuoka, Yoshiki Kato is still listed on those matches. It does not seem like that at this time that he's been pulled. So I assume that means he's okay.
That's good news.
I haven't heard anything about him being pulled, essentially.
Nor have I.
But it's interesting because we look ahead to this weekend. He has Benkei coming up on the day portion of it, and he follows that up with Masaki Mochizuki in the night portion. And at least as we've gone through this, I like the selection of guys they had for him. I am very, very intrigued when like you have him versus Benkei, because there's a natural comparison between the two of them just because of their size and the idea that they are power fighters really within this. But Benkei has whatever rough edges he's had, he has molded himself into a Dragongate Lucharesque wrestler. Like there's no mistaking him as a Dragongate guy. And it's fascinating to see if Kato takes anything out of it or if he kind of keeps this difference about him. Because I feel like that it's almost like looking at you 5 years down the line kind of thing.
Yeah, because this is what we were saying about Ben was, is he just too animalistic to ever really mold into the house style? And I don't think any of us have those reservations now.
Oh, not at all. But I think some of that also was like, if we want to do a compare and contrast about it, Ben was someone up until he pinned Masaki Mochizuki leading up to his first Dreamgate shot was so incredibly protected. They've let Kato go and sink.
Yes.
And they've let him do the deep water there. And I feel like that is kind of the big major difference that we've seen, at least them to this reflective point in their careers.
I would agree with that.
Him and Mochi, though.
I think it's going to be great. I think we should break down these Fukuoka cards real quick because I think there's a lot of good stuff on both these shows.
Absolutely. So this is the day night, and across it's on Sunday. It starts at 1 p.m. Japanese time. I'm looking at the Geiwa schedule, so I don't have the time conversions there. Y'all know how to convert time at this point. Opens with a 8-man tag, all of Z-Brads versus KZ, Strong Machine J, UT, Jackie, Funky Kame, Ginky and Jason Lee versus Kagatora and Punch Tominaga. The aforementioned match 4, the Yoshiki Kato 5-match single series versus Benkei, Masaki Mochizuki and Mochizuki Jr. versus the most decorated team in Dragongate history, Yamato and Naruki Doi, Kota Minoura and BB Hulk versus Luis Monte and Dragon Kid, and then a Dreamgate Twingate prelude match. It is Madoka Kikuta, Yuki Yoshioka, and Dragon Daya of D Courage versus the combined team of Big Boss Shimizu, Susumu Mochizuki, and Yasushi Kanda.
This is a very good looking Fukuoka show.
This, I mean, given like what we all have, like what we're given here, like Punch is a champion. He's going to be on every show here. I think you take these 6 matches and it's as strong of a non-Corkin show that they've had in a long time.
The Mochis versus Yamadoi, no disrespect to Fukuoka, I would love for them to run this back in Tokyo at some point.
Doesn't this kind of feel like a Dangerous Gate kind of match?
It does. It really does.
It feels like it should be in Oda City. Like that is the vibe here. And look, it is something now with both Mochizuki and Junior back that we're always going to kind of see, like, when are they going to go for the Twingate shot? And I think that after this, given I don't think, like, it is D Courage, so I'm coin flip on that one. It does set up pretty nicely for Final Gate, though.
Yeah, Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. You're right. They could probably go over here and then do M3K at Final Gate. You know what? That's what I want.
Hey, there we go. Anything else on the show that's really kind of speaking out to you? How do you feel about Luis teaming with Dragongate? I kind of have liked him kind of being on that side of the unaffiliated guys since his return.
I like it. I'm sure they'll form a unit, and I just wish for the sake of separation that Yamato and Dragon Kid wouldn't be linked with each other again. But I'll deal with it. I like Monte and Dragon Kid together.
Yeah, it's something that I really hope after they drop the Triangle Gates that they just shake hands, go their separate ways for a while. Don't need to see those two together. Let's look at the evening card. We're opening with Gold Class, Kota Minoura, Benkei, and BB Hulk. We didn't really talk about BB Hulk. He's back. He was
yay!
Yeah, very hit and miss on that opener. Really hit and miss on that 14th show. It was something where I was really happy with him in that opener against Natural Vibes, and then the shot put slam happened. So yeah, still having a little bit of that happen, but it is Gold Class versus Shun Skywalker, Kai, and Ishin. Kakatora and Ryoya Tanaka versus Punch Tominaga and Daiki Yanagiuchi. Special singles match, Yuki Yoshioka versus Hyo. Maraha Isapa versus Susumu and Kanda. So we're getting some 25th anniversary vibes happening there. The final match in the Yoshiki Kato singles 5-match series versus Masaki Mochizuki. Preview of Gate of Destiny, Madoka Kikuta and Dragon Dia versus Shimizu and UT. And in your main event, you have Natural Vibes, KZ, Strong Machine J, Jason Lee, and Jackie Funky Kame versus the aforementioned Luis Monte, Yamato, Dragon Kid, and Naruki Doi.
The undercard on this show does not excite me, but those last 3 matches really do. So I've got to tip my hat to Dragongate. They have got me fired up for a Fukuoka doubleheader.
I have some time for Maraha Isapa versus Susumu and Kanda.
Yeah, I'm well. All right, that's the thing, is that match could be interesting, and Yoshioka versus Hyo could also be interesting, just to see if anything comes of it. So, low match quality there, but high intrigue.
Yeah, like that's kind of my where I want to see it. And you know, now kind of like our prospect minds, our eyes kind of go to Daiki, I would feel like at this point, wouldn't you? Because
he's next man up.
Well, not just that he's next man up, he's being lapped now.
That's right. Yeah, no, this is his time. He's got to show something.
Yeah, so a very spirited looking Fukuoka doubleheader. We'll be back next week to talk about that. Well, Case, we got through this game, or we got through this show before the end of the 5th inning. The Rangers, this is exactly what I expected, man. This is what I expected. Did you have anything else you wanted to touch on before we got out of here?
I do not think so. The only thing I'll add is, if you have not already heard, on the Flagship Wrestling Patreon, myself and Rich Craich and Joe Lanza, we did about 2.5 hours. Home run, Texas Rangers. They are back in this ballgame. Rich, Joe, and I did about 2.5 hours last night on the Japan region of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame voting for this year. If you are into this show, we spent an extensive amount of time on Shima and Shingo, and I think I added some stuff to their candidacy that has not been mentioned by people that talk about them regularly. So go check that out. There's also a lot of fun stuff about, Yoshiaki Fujiwara and my thoughts on the Joshi scene, etc., etc. It was a very good podcast.
I mean, you kind of like, I've been dealing with electrical things, old house issues today, so I've caught like the first half hour of it. Y'all went safeties off, I feel like.
It gets really bad about the last 20 minutes or so.
Oh boy,
it becomes gloves off in a way that I'm sure I'm on the bad end of some nasty subtweets that I thankfully haven't seen.
Yeah. The group DMs must be going insane right now.
I'm aware of what I said, and luckily the people that it would annoy, I just can't imagine listening to me for 2 hours. But if they do, they will be very annoyed.
Hey, you know, it's just it's Hall of Fame season, and
absolutely,
and we have to spit some truths here.
Absolutely.
But we will be back with y'all next week as we count down the days to Gate of Destiny coming up in November at November 5th at Osaka Edion Arena. We have the top of the card set. It's kind of time to see how they're going to flesh out the rest of this thing.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, me too. You can follow us on Twitter at OpenVoiceGate. Case was _ in your case. I'm at Fujii. Thanks for listening to Open the Voice Gate. We'll be back with you next week. Take care.
Hi, my name is Tyler Fornes, and I am the co-host of The Good, the Bad, and the Hunky here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Every week, my co-host Fred Moreland and I discuss all the happenings of All Elite Wrestling and everything going on in the universe of Tony Khan. We talk about Dynamite, we talk about Rampage, and we will talk about Collision when the time comes as well, along with all the appearances outside of AEW from all the best talents in All Elite Wrestling. This is one of the more cohesive wrestling companies in the entire world, and we discuss every intricacy about it, including the unique booking of Tony Khan that is both a huge positive and a major detriment. Check us out every single Thursday here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
Hi, I'm Case Lowe, co-host of the Open the Voice Gate podcast. The one question I'm constantly asked when it comes to Dragongate is how do I get into the promotion? Well, stop asking and start listening to the Open the Voice Gate podcast, released every Wednesday on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. For exclusive news and show reviews, look no further than the leader in Dragongate coverage, Open the Voice Gate.